I need to tell someone what happened to me 3 months ago. I've tried talking to the police, my parents, even a therapist, but nobody really understands how terrifying it was. Well, I was 17 when this happened. I go to Westfield Secondary School in Manchester. It's one of those massive schools with about 1,500 students, built in the 70s with long corridors that smell like floor polish and cheap cafeteria food. After 3:30, when everyone goes home, the place feels completely different. Emptier, bigger somehow. I'm not a great student, if I'm being honest. That day in February, I'd been messing about during my IT coursework lesson instead of actually working, and Mr. Patterson told me I had to stay late to catch up or I'd fail the module. He said if I stayed until 5, he'd let me use the computer lab to finish my project. So that's what I did. Everyone else left at the normal time, around 3:30. By 4 o'clock, even the teachers had mostly cleared out. Mr. Patterson popped his head in at 4:15 and said he had to leave for a dentist appointment, but I could stay as long as I locked the computer lab door when I left. I wasn't really listening, to be honest. I just wanted to finish my work and go home. The computer lab is on the 2nd floor of the West Wing, right at the end of the corridor. There's only one way in and out. I worked for another half hour or so, typing up my project. The only sound was my keyboard clicking and the weird humming noise the computers make. That's when I noticed how quiet it was. Like, properly quiet. You don't realize how much background noise a school has until it's gone. It was properly dark outside by then. February gets dark early. The fluorescent lights were giving me a headache, that buzzing white light that makes everything look sickly. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Not the quick tap 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 of someone in normal shoes, but slow, deliberate thuds, like someone wearing boots. They were coming from the corridor outside. I stopped typing and listened. The footsteps stopped too. I figured it was probably the caretaker, Mr. Wilson. I went back to my work. Then the footsteps started again. Closer this time. They stopped right outside the computer lab door. I could see a shadow through the frosted glass panel in the door. Someone was standing there. But it was weird. The shadow was too still. When people stand normally, you can see tiny movements, shifting weight, breathing, something. This shadow was completely motionless, like a statue. And it was tall, really tall. The head nearly touched the top of the glass panel. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded weird in the empty room. "Mr. Wilson?" No answer. The shadow didn't move. Then the door handle moved. Just slightly. Like someone was testing it very gently, seeing if it was locked. My stomach dropped. I'd locked it after Mr. Patterson left, hadn't I? I tried to remember. I thought I had, but suddenly I wasn't sure. The handle stopped moving. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Heavy breathing, like someone who'd been running or lifting something heavy. It was loud enough that I could hear it through the door. Then the shadow moved away and the footsteps continued down the corridor. But I noticed something strange. The footsteps sounded different now. Lighter, quicker, like a second person had joined them. 2 sets of footsteps fading away together. I tried to focus on my work, but I couldn't concentrate anymore. My hands were actually shaking. The computer clock said it was 20 to 5. I decided to pack up and leave. I saved my project, shut down the computer, and grabbed my bag. Before I opened the door, I looked through the frosted glass panel. The corridor looked empty. I opened the door and stepped out. The corridor felt colder than the computer lab, noticeably colder. And there was a smell I hadn't noticed before. Something chemical, like cleaning products, but stronger. It made my eyes water. I locked the door behind me and started walking toward the stairs. My footsteps echoed on the hard floor. When I got about halfway down the corridor, I heard them again. The footsteps. But this time, they were behind me. And they matched mine. When I walked, they walked. When I stopped, They stopped. I turned around quickly. The corridor was empty. "Hello?" I called out again. My voice echoed back at me. "Is someone there?" Nothing. But I knew someone was there. Then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. On the floor, maybe 10 meters behind me, there were wet footprints. Boot prints. Leading from one of the classroom doors toward where I was standing. They just appeared out of nowhere, like someone had stepped out of that classroom and started following me. But there was nobody there. The prints were fresh, water still pooling in them. I turned back around and walked quicker toward the stairs. The footsteps behind me got quicker too. I started walking faster. So did they. I was almost jogging now, my bag bouncing against my back. The stairs were right there. Then I heard a door handle rattle behind me. One of the classroom doors. I spun around and saw it. The handle on classroom 2.14 was moving up and down, like someone was testing it. Through the window, I could see movement inside. A figure, dark and big, moving away from the door toward the back of the classroom. Then it stopped and turned around. And I swear, even though I couldn't see a face, I knew it was looking directly at me. I ran, properly ran. I hit the stairs and took them 2 at a time. I could hear those heavy footsteps running now too, but different. They weren't behind me anymore. They were above me. Someone was running on the 3rd floor, right above my head, keeping pace with me. The ceiling tiles rattled as they ran. I reached the 1st floor landing and kept going down. The footsteps above me stopped suddenly. Everything went quiet, except for my own running and my breathing. I got to the ground floor and ran toward the main entrance. The double doors were right there. I could see outside through the glass. It was dark and raining. I pushed on the doors. They didn't move. They were locked. Of course they were locked. Everyone left through the side entrance this time of day. I turned around to go to the side entrance. That's when I saw her. A girl, maybe my age, standing at the top of the stairs I'd just come down. She was wearing our school uniform, the burgundy jumper and gray skirt. Her hair was long and dark, hanging over her face. She was just standing there, not moving, her head tilted to one side. What made it worse was her hands. They were held out in front of her, palms up, like she was showing me something. But there was nothing there, just her empty hands. And they were shaking, actually trembling. "Hey," I said. My voice came out all shaky. "Are you locked in too?" She didn't answer. She took 1 step down the stairs, then another. Slow steps. She was wearing those heavy boots I'd heard. Big black ones that didn't match the rest of her uniform at all. They were muddy, leaving marks on each step. I backed away. "Look, we need to get out of here. The side door should be open. Come on." She kept walking down the stairs, not saying anything. Her hands were still held out, still shaking. As she got closer, I could see something else. Her jumper had dark stains on it, and her skirt was torn. "Are you hurt?" I asked. "Do you need help?" She stopped walking, about 5 meters away. Then, very slowly, she raised one hand and pointed past me, down the corridor toward the side entrance. The hand was still shaking. She opened her mouth like she was trying to say something, but no sound came out. Her finger kept pointing, more urgently now. That's when I heard it. Footsteps behind me. The heavy ones. Coming from the corridor she was pointing at. The corridor I needed to go down to get out. I was trapped. The girl was between me and the main entrance. Whoever was making those footsteps was between me and the side exit. I looked at her again. She was still pointing, but now she was shaking her head. Her whole body was trembling. She wasn't trying to scare me. She was terrified. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She pressed a finger to her lips. "Shh." And then she pointed to a door on my left. The girls' toilets. She was telling me to hide. The heavy footsteps were getting closer. I could hear something else now. A dragging sound, like someone pulling something heavy along the floor. The girl on the stairs backed away, moving back up toward the first floor. But before she disappeared, I saw her mouth move. No sound came out, but I could read her lips. "Run." I pushed through the door to the girls' toilets and let it swing shut behind me. The room was dark, except for the emergency exit light. I pressed myself against the wall next to the door, trying not to breathe too loud. The footsteps stopped right outside. I could see the shadow under the door, 2 feet, standing still. Then I heard something that made my stomach turn. A voice. A man's voice, low and quiet. "I know you're still here." He wasn't talking loud. That's what made it worse. He was speaking calmly, almost friendly. "The Patterson boy, Jake. I saw your name on the computer screen. You're supposed to be gone by now." I held my breath. How did he know my name? The shadow under the door shifted. "You saw something you weren't supposed to see. That's unfortunate." The dragging sound started again, moving away. He was leaving. I waited in the dark for what felt like hours, but was probably only 2 or 3 minutes. Then I heard the girl's voice. Actual voice this time, quiet and shaky, but I could hear it through the door. "He's gone. You need to go now. Don't go to the side entrance. He's waiting there. Go through the main hall, through the canteen. There's a fire exit by the kitchen. Go now." I pushed the door open slowly. The corridor was empty. The girl was standing halfway up the stairs watching me. I could see her face now, just barely. She was Asian, with dark eyes that looked terrified. She had a bruise on her cheek. "Who is he?" I whispered. "Just go," she said. "Please, before he comes back." I ran toward the main hall like she told me. Behind me, I heard her footsteps going back upstairs. Why was she going back up? Why wasn't she coming with me? But I didn't stop to ask. The main hall was huge and dark. I could see the exit sign above the canteen doors on the far side. I was halfway across when I heard them. The footsteps. Running. He knew I'd left the toilets. I sprinted through the canteen doors and ran past the serving counter. The kitchen was through double doors at the back. I could see the fire exit sign glowing red. I was almost there. Something grabbed my bag. I felt it yank backward. I slipped out of the straps and kept running, leaving my bag behind. I didn't look back. I slammed through the kitchen doors and ran straight for the fire exit. The alarm went off as soon as I hit the bar, a loud ringing that filled the whole building. The cold air hit me. I stumbled forward into a delivery area behind the school. The rain was pouring down. I ran around the bins, through a gap in the fence, and onto the street. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. There were cars and lights and people. I walked home, soaking wet, looking behind me the whole way. When I got home, my mom asked why I was soaking wet and where my bag was. I told her some older kids had nicked it. She told me off for chasing them. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those 2 people. The man who knew my name. The girl who'd warned me. What was he doing to her? And what had he been dragging? The next day at school, I went to find my bag. A teacher took me to the canteen. My bag was sitting on one of the tables. Everything was still inside. Nothing was missing. But there was something extra. A piece of paper, folded up small, tucked into the front pocket. I waited until I was alone to read it. It was a note, written in scrawly handwriting with a blunt pencil. "You got lucky. Don't stay late again. Don't tell anyone what you saw. They won't believe you anyway. And if you try, I'll know. I'm watching." My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. I looked around. Everyone was just eating lunch and chatting. Normal school day. But somewhere in this building, he was here. Watching. I told my mate Connor about it during lunch, but I left out the note. He said I was probably just scared and imagined most of it. But I didn't imagine it. I had the note to prove it, tucked away in my pocket. For the next few weeks, I never stayed late at school again. I started paying attention to people. The male teachers, the caretakers, anyone who had access to the building after hours. But there were dozens of them, and none of them seemed suspicious. Then, about 3 weeks after it happened, there was an assembly. The head teacher, Mrs. Davies, stood up front, looking really serious. She said a girl from year 11 had been reported missing. She hadn't come home from school the day before. Her name was Sophie Chen. They showed a photo of her on the big screen. Long dark hair, burgundy school jumper, a face I recognized. It was her. The girl from the stairs. The girl who'd saved me. I felt like I was going to be sick. Mrs. Davies said Sophie was last seen leaving her final class at 3:30. But that couldn't be right. I'd seen her. She'd helped me. She'd told me to run. And then she'd gone back upstairs. Back to him. Then I realized I'd gotten the timing wrong in my head. The night I stayed late wasn't 3 weeks ago. It was the night Sophie disappeared. And I'd left her there. They showed more pictures of Sophie. Her with her friends. Her wearing those same heavy boots she always wore, even with her uniform. Her friends were crying. The police came to school that day. I sat in class, my mind racing. I needed to say something. I'd seen her. I'd talked to her. After school, I went to the office and asked to speak to the police officers. They took me to a quiet room and I told them everything. The footsteps. The man with the voice. Sophie on the stairs warning me. The chase through the building. Everything. They wrote it all down. They asked me lots of questions. What time exactly? What was she wearing? What did the man sound like? I told them I never saw his face. They asked about the note. I'd thrown it away, I admitted. I'd been scared. They looked disappointed. They asked me why I'd left her there. Why didn't I try to help her? Why didn't I call the police right away? I didn't have good answers. I'd been scared. I'd run away. They searched the school that evening. Dogs, officers, everything. They searched every classroom, every corridor. They found Sophie's bag in one of the practice rooms in the music department, hidden behind a piano. But no sign of her, and no sign of anyone else. They found wet boot prints in the corridor on the second floor, right where I'd said. But that was it. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing useful. The police interviewed all the male staff members who had access to the building after hours. They all had alibis. The caretaker had been at home sick. The deputy head had been at a meeting. Mr. Patterson had been at the dentist. Everyone cleared. They started to look at me differently then. Started asking if maybe I'd gotten confused. If maybe I knew more than I was saying. I could see it in their eyes. They thought I was involved somehow. My parents hired a solicitor. The police questioned me twice more, each time implying I wasn't telling the truth. But I was. I told them exactly what happened. Sophie Chen never came home. They kept searching for weeks. They dragged the pond near the school. They searched the woods. Nothing. She'd just vanished, and I was the only witness. The only one who knew she'd been in danger. And I'd run away.